After 8 years as a livin Charlie Mortarman in the United States Army, now I'm the host of the podcast. After that, now what? This is my story. Welcome to the After That, Now What podcast. I am your host, Jordan Peat. Each week, we will take you through stories of veterans and first responders exiting their careers and finding new ones or retiring. Sit back and enjoy. Hello, and welcome to the After That, Now What podcast. This episode is titled a pilot episode. I want to kind of introduce myself, introduce my producer, talk about the mission of this podcast, talk about where I can see this going in respect to how it could be used for educational purposes on people getting out of the military or first responder service jobs. So overall, it's going to be a introduction to the podcast today. Hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully you watch till the end. That's what really helps these videos go. Hopefully you press that like button, subscribe, share, all of it right around somewhere. I'll get better at pointing on where that subscribe button is, but please subscribe. That's how we're gonna get out to more people and hopefully help more people as well. It's free to subscribe. All you gotta do is sign up for a YouTube account if you already don't have one. But it's free to subscribe. If you have a Gmail, you already have a YouTube account. So, anyways, thank you for subscribing. And back to the show. Background on myself. I was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Interestingly, went full circle for my first duty station and was stationed down there in Fort Bliss, Texas, down there by El Paso, and not too far from where I was born. But in between then, I was raised up in South Bend, Indiana. I played hockey from age 6 to 18. Did fairly decent in school, interestingly, with this podcast, going through a bunch of pictures. And here's a whole folder of honors and attendance and everything like that, but it seemed to stop at a certain point, and it seemed to really coincide with that picture right there. Just different hair, kind of hanging out. I believe my nickname was called Mr. Beefy, and I believe I could probably still fit in some of the same clothes that I did back then in 7th and 8th grade. So but anyways, grew up there in South Bend. Graduated from James Whitcomb Riley High School. Played hockey for them. Graduated high school and then tried college. Wouldn't say I gave it a good college try at all. I applied and got into the local branch of Indiana University there in South Bend, so IUSB, and I attended one class of English to which the professor asked what we felt about the first 60 some odd pages in some book I had not read. And so I got up and left. And he asked me if I was going to come back. And I said, yeah, probably not there, bud. So didn't really try too hard at college. Finished one class, I should have said, and that was weightlifting. And so I always say that was my most expensive gym membership ever, $7,500 on a gym membership for one semester, but I did it, and that's what I left there with, and that was it. And there, the fall, during that whole not really going to college, I decided I really wanted to join the military. I had it in my mind all the way through, like most of us, back to September 11th. Had it in our mind that that's what we were going to do when we got to an age that we could. September 11th for me happened in 5th grade. Wheeling out the little TV from the recording video or whatever, audio video, AV room, audio video room, and rolling out the big TV and showing us those planes crash into those towers constantly over and over again. So we decided back then that that's probably what I wanted to do. Through high school, I was athletic and really wanting to get into training for it, but really understood how to even join the military. And so when it came down to deciding, yes, I want to join, and yes, I want to go fight for the country, I looked up in the yellow pages, not getting it all. This is 2010. I just didn't have. I had a flip phone for sure. Probably a Razor, if you guys remember those. I'll probably pop up a picture right there, but a Razor, and so not really a way to like Google nearest recruiting office as easy as we could today and actually know what that meant at all today as well. So I didn't have people to ask. Not really many people were joining around me. I think I might have been one of like three that maybe four eventually joined from my high school class. So not really the thing for my town, not really everything. But either way, I looked it up in the yellow pages. I said recruiting office. And I was just looking for the address because I knew I had seen one around town. And I was like, okay, that's where I'm thinking it is. Okay, that's where it is. I'm going to go down there. So I head down there and walk in the door. And the recruiting office was set up so that all their desks were facing the wall and the big open space in the middle. So you could do PT and test new recruits and everything like that, etc. But anyway, so I walk in the door, little chime, bloop, bloop, and everybody kind of looks over at me like, "What's up with this kid?" Ask me anything. I said, "So, is this where you sign up for the Marines?" And the one guy looked at me and he was like, "No, buddy, this is not where you sign up for the Marines." And I had walked into the Indiana National Guard recruiting office. Um, Sorry if I seem distracted. My pup here came and joined me, but he might lay down. We'll see. He'll probably show up in a few episodes, I'm assuming. But either way, so I walked into an Indiana National Guard office. And one of the guys then turned around and said, why are you thinking Marines? And my honest answer, verbatim, 14 years ago, was because they're badasses. No shit. Like, of course, I want to freaking join the Marines. And so he went into an explanation of throwing, he grabbed a dime and he threw it in that big open space in the middle of the room and he pointed at it and he asked me, he said, "Do you know what that is?" And I said, "It's a dime in the middle of the room." And he said, "No, that's a boat. That floor around it, it's the ocean. You want to be stuck on a boat in the middle of the ocean for your whole career?" And I was like, no, that doesn't seem fun. And so I signed up for the Army like 3 days after that conversation. So I did. I came back the next day to take my practice ASVAB. Did okay. Can't remember what practice I got, but okay. Enough to have them questioning why I still wanted to do infantry at least, but maybe not as good as for them to say, no, definitely don't do infantry. So don't really remember the score, but went over to Chicago MEPS a couple times after that, and a couple days after that, and stayed the night, and then in the morning. So the night that we got there, took the ASVAB. Odd situation, but real quick ASVAB taking. Got enough to get in the infantry. Got enough to get in the Army. That's all I cared about. Didn't really know the implications later on in my career about not taking that test seriously, but took it next morning. Walked in. Guy's on his phone at MEPS, and he says, "Okay, well, I can't get you 11 Bravo, but I can get you 11 Charlie." And what the heck does that mean, guy? And so he tosses a big old book in front of me, and on the title of it, he told me, he said, "Well, this is what 11 Charlies do." And I said, "Okay." And I read it, and I wasn't a very good reader. So I read it as in space, direct space, infantryman. So like indirect fire, ready to go. Infantryman, front lines, like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Like, why didn't the guy that I said I wanted to be a badass tell me about 11 Charlie and all this stuff? And so, yeah, no, it's indirect fire infantrymen. So 11 Charlies, mortarmen, high angle hail, death and destruction from above, whatever saying you want to use. But definitely not what I had thought at all, what that was. But I wouldn't find that out for another couple weeks until I got to sit down at Fort Benning. But so I signed up right away, and I signed up as a kind of different contract. It was 11 Charlie, so a lot of people sign up as 11 X-ray, and then you get divided up when you're down there at Fort Benning at 30th AG before you go off to Sand Hill for training. And so I didn't, though. So I signed up for 11 Charlie because this was the National Guard contract, and the contract then, have no idea if it still exists, but I did active first program. So I did 3 years active duty, 3 years National Guard, 2 years in active reserve. That was the contract I signed up for. I later on eliminated the 3-year National Guard obligation by re-enlisting the first time that I re-enlisted, and then I re-enlisted a second time. Ended up serving 8 years total before getting out. But yeah, so that was my first contract, and then I went off on May 9th, 14 years ago, to Fort Benning, Georgia, for one station unit training. And I really, really was fat, out of shape, and was not at all ready for that. But I got down there. It was hot, 95, May to, would that be 17 weeks to like September, down there in Georgia. Whew, I melted. So I actually went from, I think it was 225, 235 maybe, in this picture, a couple weeks before leaving for basic. Again, I was in the active first program, so I had already had a uniform, and this is graduation, and I was 165 pounds. So roughly 60 pounds of weight loss in 17 weeks. If you're ever really dying to lose that weight, no idea what else to do, that's a way to do it. It's not the most pleasant years after, for if you don't want to do that with your life, but it's a way to lose the weight for sure. But anyway, so I got done with basic, got to or OSET, and then got my first duty station. So then I'm back full circle. I'm back to Fort Bliss, Texas. I was the only one sitting there while the drill sergeants were naming off the places where everybody was going, and like 90% of us were slotted for Fort Bliss, and I was the only one sitting there like, oh, that's El Paso. And got to Fort Bliss, got through, I would say probably 3 months before I found my ex-wife. Yeah, yeah. No, it might have been longer. It might have been like 5 months. It was probably about 5 months. Yeah. So I got the, yeah, it was about 5 months. But either way, found her at one of the clubs down in El Paso. Shocker, shocker. Uh, Met her then, like February, March, and then we were married in July. But so yeah, So yes, married in July, and then after that, I deployed right away. Um, I deployed 2012 to 13. We left Christmas Eve. That was pretty cool timing. Got to watch everybody open presents on FaceTime while we had to leave that day. So, but either way, deployed. Typical. Not even gonna beat around the bush. She cheated on me while I was gone. I'll distinctly remember what my first sergeant said. Sat me down and he said, Pete, no matter what you do, you can forgive, but you'll never forget. And so, this was just one of those moments I want to share with you guys that really stuck with me overall for a lot of different things in life, but specifically in that moment, he was talking about my ex-wife, of course, but which became true. Fast forward, not to belabor too much of the military stuff. Fast forward to 2015, then started divorce, and then ended 2016 divorced. It was a long divorce, not ugly or anything. The judge just kept postponing it over and over again. So, but either way, Fort Carson. So I was so excited to get up there. I get up there in about a couple weeks after I got there, maybe like close to a month. Boom, shipped off to Europe to join up with an amazing group of guys, but I wasn't ready to leave Colorado immediately like that. And I was worried about how much time away that would end up being, anyways. But I got up to Colorado, got there at Fort Carson, did another 3 years. Like I said, decided to get out on many different reasons. I was not giving effort like I should have. I had not for a while. Did not care that much about what I was doing and was ready to move on and see what else I could do in this life. And so I made that decision to get out. I started paperwork on, medical. One piece of advice to all of you getting out is, and just when you're in, get stuff documented. That's all you got to do. Doesn't make you any type of person that people will call you for going to sick hall or going to mental health. Like, go get stuff documented. But not being on a soapbox, document it. But the got everything going for getting out and getting VA lined up and seeing what I wanted to do during Soldier for Life transition assistance program. SFL TAP is what I'll call it from this point on. But during SFL TAP, you go through resume writing, research on jobs, see what you want to do, etc., etc. And I was sitting there and I wasn't really positive on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, and had any sort of plan, to be honest. I was Uber driving at the time, still while I was in. That's why I was gonna back up as my backup immediate and then kind of figure things out from there. But this week provided me time to actually think about it for the first time in 8 years of my life, and I reverted back to what I originally went to school for, was physical therapy. And so I saw that in some of the questionnaire tests that I took during SFL TAP pointed me also towards that medical field direction. And so I enrolled in the pre-med physical therapy program at University of Colorado, Denver. Okay. Yeah. So now it's spring of 2019 and I am on my way out. I have turned everything in. I've dusted everything off. I've printed off my award that is there, but somewhere I don't even know. And there I went. I was unsure where things were going to go. I rented a room up in Littleton, Colorado when I initially got out, to supplement income until VA really started and school started. I was continuing to Uber drive, and then during SFL TAP, I went to the job fair, and which I also suggest, even if you can't go through the in-person process of getting out in whatever career field you're in, go to job fairs, see what's out there, see what people are interested in you or not. But anyways, the went to the job fair and I got picked up by Performance Driven Workforce, and they work with Roush Motors to provide drivers for test driving prototype and pre-production level vehicles. And so immediately after I got out, moved up to Littleton for that room for rent, and I started driving for those prototype cars. So that was a job. That was my first paid W-2 job after I got out. I hadn't had any experience besides I've driven everything in the military, and obviously driven my own car for a long time, but hadn't had any experience. Didn't need any, just needed proficient in communicating and proficient in uh, preventive maintenance, preventative maintenance checks and services, PMCS. So all the things that we complain about on Monday mornings, that's what I chose to do on civilian vehicles for the summer. And so what that job entailed was I would get there. There was two shifts. I would get there in the morning at 5 a.m. and then by 5:30 you would know if you had a car to drive, and then by 6 you would be out on the road for either an 8-hour or 10-hour day. There for your initial drives, you're with somebody, but after your probationary period, you were by yourself in that car for 8 to 10 hours a day. So gave me a lot of time to think about life and a lot of time to think about my current situation that I was in and where I was going with things, and if I was happy with the direction I was going. And again, I didn't have that connection with people to see what others were doing. Everybody who got out before me, I was in my platoons, they had gone home, you know, and for some of us, I think y'all can relate. There is no home there anymore by the time you're ready to get out. So, kind of left with that question of like, all right, well, what do I do then? So yeah, 8 to 10 hours in a car by yourself gives you a lot of time to think, really re-center on my focus and what I wanted to do. I dived in on what that looks like for being a physical therapist, what degrees I need to do, what paths CU Denver offers, such things like that. I recommend a job like that when you first get out. I don't recommend, personally, this is all personal opinion, right? I don't recommend jumping into something that you immediately lock into for the rest of your life. Granted, that might be the financially the best decision to do. Don't get me wrong, but I believe in gap years all over the place in life. I really do. I think everybody out of high school should have a gap year. I think they should not be going straight into college. I don't think they should go straight into the military. I think they should have a gap year and explore what they want to do. Would people not come back after that gap year? Yeah, that's kind of the point I make is that the path that's set for you in that time frame is set for you, and you really don't have much to say even though you're an adult. You have some sort of bumpers guiding you into a certain direction and you take it. So likewise, after getting out of the military or leaving a first responder job, I really recommend to take time. And not saying don't work. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's exactly what I did. I got that job at Performance Driven Workforce and drove those prototype cars and made a little extra money on top of my Uber driving, and I interacted with people in the civilian world. That was very important to learn how to do again. Um, and we'll talk about all that more throughout this podcast for sure. So I'm going to refocus everything back to the podcast and go over how I got here from there. The following is a paid advertisement for Veteran Peptide. For the purposes of this ad, I, Jordan Peat, am a paid actor, and nothing expressed in this advertisement directly expresses my views or my direct use of any product shown or discussed. I woke up from a 5-year slumber on my body, and I decided to start moving again. Whether I'm swimming, paddling, or running,
train hard, recover even harder with veteranpeptide.com. Get your orders in now. Let's go!
Disclaimer: the information provided is for informational purposes only, should not be considered as medical advice or substitute for professional consultation. Please conduct your own research and consult with a healthcare professional before making any decisions related to your health and wellness. So, long story short, going from Army to whatever I was doing with my life had a few steps to go through for sure. I did the precision driven workforce job. I drove Uber, and then once I started school in the fall of 2019, I stopped doing both of those. 2020 beginning, then I started doing learning assistant, similar to teaching assistant, but for undergrads. And I did that during school. Nothing else besides school and that. Luckily enough, GI Bill, pay into it. If you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't pay into that, why do I want to lose $1,200? It's literally the most extreme payback system you've ever had in your life. $1,200 to get you room and board plus tuition plus books covered for your college degree, or your children's, or your spouse's. So keep that in mind too. But either way, the GI Bill helped tremendously. So I didn't have to do a second job like many of my students and everything like that. My fellow students, not co-students, fellow students. And then I started, and I really just didn't jive with the pre-med. I wasn't super excited about doing physical therapy anymore after starting into school, and I really got a spark from a professor. I'll call him Dr. Miller. Hello, thank you. I'm wearing another hat now. We always joked that we wore so many different hats, and we had to point in our hat with what we were talking about to make sure we both understood on the wavelength we were talking of. But wearing so many different hats, and I got wearing so many different hats. Now look at Dr. Miller. You got me confused all these years later. All right. Now, Dr. Miller introduced like what you could do with biotechnology in the world. Okay. He had many different projects of his own, to which one I helped out with, and I really fell in love with biotech, and I knew at that point that's where I wanted to take things. And so I set up the degree to finish with BS in biology, and then a certificate program that Dr. Miller ran for biotechnology. And so that looked a little bit more focused into higher division classes on biotechnology, and it provided the needed steps to really explore the careers that were possible in the field. I focused on biotechnology, and then so on my path to a career in that after getting out of the military, I got on LinkedIn. I got on Indeed. I did Indeed, LinkedIn, and any company that was in Colorado that I possibly could or wanted to work for. Just applied on their company websites. So went through the process of directing my resume specifically with cover letters and specifically written resumes with bullet points based on what the job posting actually said. I'd recommend that for any type of job posting. Okay. It helps with keyword searches, especially with everything being AI these days. Everything's going to be picking up on keyword searches, and your resume probably doesn't see a human for at least 5 rounds of these computer generated searches, trying to find you through a stack of resumes that they get every day. So, trying to put the keywords in there from job posting into every resume, doing specific cover letters for specific jobs with information on the company and how I fit with the overall culture of the company and everything like that. I would pull it up. I probably did apply to about 70 to 100 jobs in the 6 months before graduating college. So, and I got absolutely zero offers, and I was pretty beaten up. I'm not gonna lie. I had gone through a couple different rounds of interviews. I would say out of those 100, we'll say, I probably only had like 5 that really materialized into interviews. Um, and there could be many reasons on why, and I could speculate all day on why that's how it was going. But that's what happened, and I was sitting there really defeated, and now I was up in Broomfield, Colorado, and sitting in my apartment with Joker, just being like, man, what are we gonna do? Like, I graduated in 6 months, and I have 0 leads on a job. So about 2 months before graduating, I hopped on LinkedIn for the 1,000th time in the day and started clicking through jobs that were open, and one had popped up recently, probably about 10 minutes. And I had applied for it, and I woke up to an email directly from this startup CEO and setting up a interview with the team there. So that was quite the process to get in the door for my next career, and that's what I want to talk about because nobody does. Everybody is just like, "Oh, I got this job and it's great and it's grand and oh, congratulations." And nobody sees the sausage being made on that, especially for people trying to move out of what they were doing before that maybe is an extreme difference, like myself. I say throwing mortars down a tube, launching them 7,200 meters, a little different than sitting there with a little pipette, just and that was one thing I told Dr. Miller too all the time. I was like, man, the things I did compared to the things I'm doing. But it's fun. But I want to have people expose like how to get into these different career fields that all of you are in. So either way, but back to where I was. And so, I got this finally, from I got an email from the CEO, got set up with interviews for this company up in Fort Collins. It's called Ground Truth in Molecular Diagnostics, GTM, and it is a company at the time that worked mainly in testing wastewater for viruses and giving reports to public health officials to make decisions on COVID happenings back in 2022, somewhat recent, you know. Um, but the main point of the company was to create diagnostic early cancer diagnostic tests, um, to hopefully catch cancers sooner than later, like we currently do, and a lot of people die every day and catching the cancer too late. So, but that's what the company was about. I got hired on as a lab assistant working in the wastewater lab, so that's why I know more on the wastewater side than the cancer side. But uh, processed poop water, got poop water sent in from around the country and processed it down to get genetic material and tested that genetic material for viruses. And based on the concentration of those viruses in said poop water that we collected, really said what your community was dealing with COVID still, or flu, or RSV, or any of the above. And so it's overall a decent way to uh, give public health officials a look on how disease is spreading through the community. And so that's what I did there. Ended as a research associate. Um, and that was about 2022 is when I graduated and started at GTM. And 2023, beginning of the year, I this is all relevant, by the way. But at the beginning of 2023, I hiked Mount Bierstadt with my boy Juan and my coworker and buddy from GTM, Mitch. And it was a winter climb, and it was pretty darn cold and treacherous and long day. And it was a good train up for what I did a few weeks after that. Was the memorial of the Baton Death March, like marching down in White Sands Missile Range, full circle again, back in out there outside of Las Cruces. And those two major events really kind of kicked the dust off the old brain and heart and everything, and said, are you doing what you want to do? You know, I think I asked myself that at least 100 times in those 26.2 miles of the Baton Death March with 35 pounds. Doesn't sound like a lot after all those years, but I mean, I was out of shape, all right? But, 35 pounds on your back, and you're just asking, are you doing what you want to do? I was looking around at that Baton Death March at fellow veterans, fellow first responders who were all there for each other. And I just hadn't had that in a while, in person, we'll say. COVID really messed all that up, but just didn't have it. Didn't have the connection with the vet group at CU Denver. It was my own fault. I'd never tried, so it is what it is. But I got down there into that death march and really felt, no, I'm not doing what I want to be doing. And so got back from that, and I turned in my 2 weeks to GTM, a little short of my year anniversary of being there. Some said, don't do that. Some said, wait till 3 years. Make sure you for real don't want to do this. And then you can move on with history of working in civilian. Oh, do that. No. I mean, if you want to be done, be done. Like, if you're going to figure it out, figure it out. That's it. It's not any of that. So anyway, turned in my 2 weeks, packed up my apartment, and 2 years ago I left and became nomadic, pretty much for the last 2 years. I would say, on the basis of how much did I spend outside of four walls, probably a good 12 months out of the last 2 years. And that was all by choice, out on some amazing trails and amazing camp spots and amazing uh, adventures across the Southwest and West in general. And I cover all of that on my personal travel and adventure blog page. If you want to check that out, it's Jordan and Joker, on everything. But either way, they really had so much time to think out there. And on my first initial jaunt out, I spent a ton of time in Colorado in the middle of absolute nowhere without service and plenty of time to think, what do I want to do? What is it that Jordan Peat actually wants to do? And so, why a podcast? I think if you haven't picked up, I think I've said the exact words of the title I've chosen many times in my explanation of how I got here. And it's after that, now what? Now what do we do? We experience some pretty heavy stuff, mentally, physically, just deteriorates you in these services for our country, and leaves us sitting there a lot of times wondering, now what? What do we do now? And so I want to invite people on the podcast, interview them, and have them tell their story. Exactly that. As after X, what'd you do then? Now what? What'd you do? I hope this provides information to help each other. I hope that if I interview a gentleman that's running a law firm in Boston, I hope that if that is not even that guy's dream, I hope that somebody watching, getting out, or currently separated from service, or about to be separated from service, I hope it's their dream. And then he gets a blueprint on how to, accomplish his dream. I don't want this to turn into everybody saying, "Oh, there's my dream." No. Find your own dream. Do your own research. I want to provide hundreds of options here for you to think, "Oh, okay, I didn't know I could be a surf instructor. Oh, I didn't know I could be a paramedic. Oh, I didn't know I could do this." Like, with very little change into the civilian world to do all those things. So, I want to highlight the pathways that people take to go from point A to point B. I want to showcase people who are doing amazing. Okay. I don't want to downplay the realities of our military, and much of it isn't the coolest thing in the world. And if people want to talk about that, I am all ears, and we will have a community here to support them. Okay. And I want to have you know that I am going to do my due diligence to pre investigate on who I'm interviewing. But if there is ever anybody that shows up that really is not supposed to be public with what they're talking about or anything like that, please let me know. And we will do some more investigation of our own on why you feel that way. Okay, so all that out of the way. Another thing that I just want to point out, I don't got anything fancy on here. Okay. And 99% of us don't. All right. I think the people who we hear hit these big podcasts and hit the internet and hit their stories like, oh gosh, that's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Love it. Love all the huge accomplishments. It's amazing. And they are doing wonderful for what they're doing. I want to represent and have people on who are more relatable. You know, I don't think I could ever relate that much to somebody with a trident. There's no shade against the seals, okay? It's a insane hard thing to get into. It's an insane thing, hard thing to stay into. It's a hard thing to actually go through, okay? But I couldn't relate less to them and their service. Me, I swept motor pools. I cleaned toilets. I taught guys how to shoot at a range. I, ran different PT programs. I did all sorts of. I was just talking to somebody else. I worked at a gym for a few months. Here's the dog. I don't know if you'll be able to see him, but I did details. I did CQ. I did step. We this is us. This is us. Okay. I don't know. I'm sure there's CQ in the higher teams, but I'm just saying, all to say, I really support those guys and gals. I hats off to them. Look, hats off to them on everything they did, but the 99% of us that didn't are going back into the civilian world and trying to figure things out. And so I really hope that that doesn't come off any type of way. I'm merely saying it as, I don't want you to think, oh, he just wants, such and such big names. I won't even name them, but such and such big names on the podcast. No. If they actually reach out and want to come on, by all means. But right now and for the foreseeable future, I want you on. You, the listener, you watching this, you from Facebook. If you're still watching this, thank you. It's been a long episode compared to what I've put out before, but thank you, thank you. I want you on. I want to tell your story. I want to present your business. I want to show people what great things we're doing beyond anything that's the spectacular story. Okay. I think everyone's story is spectacular in its own way, and I'm going to showcase it the best we can. And hopefully, it gets traction to support veterans all around the world. Okay. So, with that being said, last but not least, I need you. I need you. I'm going to contact most of you that I want to get on this interview schedule. But if you're sitting there at home or sitting there in the office or sitting there listening to me at the gym or whatever you're doing, I want you to listen in. Lock in. Lock in. Lock in. That's what we're saying right now, right? Lock in. I need you. I need you to reach out to me. I need you to message me. I need you to message your friends. I need you whatever you need to do to get in contact with me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on email. Everything. Pretty open with everything. Contact me in some way if you want to be on. I'm making a trip from, I don't even know how this is all going to work. I'm probably even backwards, but either way, I'm making a trip from Florida all the way up to close to Wyoming ish and down and hanging out in Colorado for the summer, plus planning where I'm going to go from there. So if you're along those routes, if you're anywhere in the country, I will be by at some point, and that's the other point of this. I'll come to you. There's no travel. There's no flying you in. There's no, I don't have a budget for that anyways. I don't know if you can tell. I'm recording on a $15 mic that I found on Amazon. I have a $25 hat on, and I'm on a couch somewhere. So I don't have the budget to fly people out, but I will come see you, and I want to share your story. So, with that being said, if you don't want to be on camera, if you don't want to be on audio, if you don't want your name attached to your story, I still want to share your story. So, if you think you have a story, regardless if you think you do or not, email the show after that now what I'll put it up there at gmail.com. Email the show and we will get you on the schedule to record, or I will have your story and we will either do like a ghost, I don't know, like a this kind of thing of me telling your story, Um and then likewise, one last thing I want to touch on is uh where all this goes. I don't know, but I do know where I'm going to be taking my support for our community, regardless of how this podcast goes. My 10 to 15-year plan now is to open a camp in Colorado. I want it to be a place where people can come year round. So probably southern Colorado, but want people to come year round and enjoy each other's company as veterans, first responders, past, present, future, and most importantly, I don't want to forget the Gold Star families and survivor families of the fallen on first responder side. Um, if you want to share your loved one's story, I'm all ears. If you want to be on, and we can schedule that and figure out what best works for you. Um, and then likewise, if you want the story shared, but you don't yourself want to be on camera or anything, I'll figure out a way to be sharing people's stories so that it is for sure looks like it's not me sharing it, but sharing of our stories in the community. But yeah, so first pilot episode done. Gonna start cranking out more. You might see me repeat a few things based on how many views this gets, but I hope to see you back very soon. I hope you click that like button wherever it is. Click that subscribe button. Smash it, and share it with your friends. If you're still active duty or still in service for first responders, please share it with your folks and see if it helps them. If they have specific questions they want answered, or if there's a question that you've heard a billion times that people need to be addressing altogether, I am completely open for them. I'm working on interview questions now. Want it to be more of a conversation, but I want it to have a purpose and be mindful of everybody's time. So, with that being said, I really don't think I want to push podcasts past like 15 to 30 minutes to start. If people want to hear more, please yell at me in the comments and I will record more. I'll record and talk all day. People who know me, I can talk, right? I can talk and talk and talk. So it's perfect. I'm talking to the best right now. So, but keeping it short, want to be mindful of your time, want to have a structure of the podcast to be able to be like, oh, okay, I see what, Jordan said he did after being 11 Charlie and didn't use any of it and just went into that style. What did this guy do instead in that direction? Okay, or how did this guy get into the lab, or how did this guy become, or how did this girl become into the EMS so quick and I had to go through the, all sorts of different questions. hopefully will be answered over the next many podcasts interviewing everybody. Um, so yeah, hopefully you like, share, subscribe. I might sound annoying with it, but it really is free and it helps tremendously. The algorithm. Subscribe and watch the full video. I'll be honest at this point, if you're still watching, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And please message me. I want to see who's actually watching all the way through. I want to do something special for everybody that is part of the crew that watches from beginning to end, and I'm working on that now. So, um, hopefully, in the future, we'll work on logos and actual backgrounds and really improve this podcast as it goes. But here's the first episode. Hope you enjoyed.